One of the biggest risks contractors are overlooking right now, not having pollution liability insurance at all. Because in most cases, it's not about having the wrong coverage, it's about not realizing there's a gap in the first place. And the problem is, most contractors don't find out until something actually happens. So in this video, we're going to walk through what typically happens when this coverage isn't in place, where we see this turn into real financial and operational problems. Let's start with the most important point. Most general liability policies exclude pollution. And this is where the misunderstanding begins. A lot of contractors assume, if something goes wrong on the job, my general liability policy will cover it. But when it comes to environmental issues, that's usually not the case. So if there's an incident like a fuel spill, contaminated soil, a chemical release, or even disturbing existing contamination on a job site, there's a very good chance your general liability policy is not going to respond. Which means, without pollution liability insurance, you're essentially self-insuring that entire risk. Now let's talk about what that actually looks like in the real world. If an environmental issue occurs, you could be responsible for cleanup and remediation costs, third-party property damage, bodily injury claims, regulatory fines and oversight, project shutdowns or delays. And these aren't small expenses. Environmental claims tend to escalate quickly. They often involve multiple parties, specialized cleanup crews, regulatory agencies, extended timelines. So what starts as a contained issue can turn into a much larger financial obligation. Now layer in contracts. This is where things get even more complicated. We see this all the time. A contractor is required to carry pollution liability insurance as part of the contract, but it's either overlooked or assumed to be covered under another policy. Then an issue happens. Now you're not only dealing with the claim itself, you're also out of compliance with the contract. And that can lead to back charges from the project owner or general contractor, legal disputes over responsibility, or in some cases being removed from the project entirely. So now the problem isn't just financial, it's contractual. And that creates a different level of exposure. But it doesn't stop there. This is where it becomes a broader operational issue. Without the right coverage in place, one environmental incident can disrupt your cash flow, tie up internal resources, delay or stop current projects, impact your ability to bid on future work, and create long-term reputational risk. Because once an issue like this happens, it doesn't stay isolated. It affects how you're viewed by project owners, general contractors, and even insurance carriers going forward. So it's not just about the claim, it's about what happens after the claim. What more experienced operators understand is that environmental exposure exists whether you plan for it or not. You don't have to specialize in environmental work to have exposure. Sometimes it's as simple as you're working on a site, something gets disturbed, and now you're involved in a claim. So instead of assuming it won't happen, they structure their insurance around the actual work being performed, the environments they're operating in, and the contractual obligations they've agreed to. Because when something does happen, the difference between having the right coverage and not having it is significant. And looking ahead, we're seeing increased regulatory scrutiny, tighter contract requirements, and more awareness around environmental risk. So this isn't becoming less important, it's becoming more critical over time. If you're working on projects where there's any chance of environmental exposure, it's worth taking a closer look at whether this gap exists in your current coverage. Because most contractors don't realize it's there until it's already a problem. Most of the claims we see aren't from specialists, they're from contractors who didn't think this applied to them. If you want to take a closer look at your current policies, or understand how this applies to your specific operations, you can visit the website or schedule a call using the links in the description. Thanks for watching.